Let me ask you something. How many times have you told yourself, I'll do it later? How often have you felt stuck, knowing exactly what needs to be done, but lacking the drive to do it? Laziness isn't just about feeling tired or unmotivated. It's a habit, a mindset that holds you back from your true potential. But here's the good news. Laziness is not who you are. It's just something you do. And just like any habit, it can be broken. Today I'm going to give you 6 powerful strategies to destroy laziness, take back control, and start taking action like never before. Because success, growth, and fulfillment don't come from waiting, they come from doing. Are you ready? Let's go. Laziness doesn't start in your body, it starts in your mind. It's not about energy levels, and it's not about physical exhaustion. It's about the stories you tell yourself. If you constantly say, I'm just not a motivated person, or I always procrastinate, your brain locks onto those statements as truth. Your identity is shaped by your repeated thoughts and beliefs. And if you believe you're lazy, you will act accordingly. But here's the thing. Laziness is not a permanent trait, it's a conditioned response. It's a habit that has been reinforced over time by choosing comfort over challenge, by prioritizing short-term pleasure over long-term fulfillment. The way out? Reprogramming your mind to see yourself differently, because once you shift your identity, your actions will follow. Think about the most driven, successful people in the world. Do you think they wake up every morning feeling automatically motivated? No. They have doubts, fears, and moments of exhaustion just like you, but the difference, they don't let those feelings define their actions. They have trained themselves to push through resistance, to act despite how they feel. And that training starts in the mind. Your brain is designed to keep you safe and comfortable. It craves familiarity and avoids discomfort. That's why the moment you think about doing something challenging, whether it's going to the gym, starting that business, or even just getting off the couch, your mind throws up resistance. It tells you, let's do it later, you're too tired, it's not the right time, but you must recognize these thoughts for what they are, excuses. Your mind is simply running an old, outdated program designed to keep you in the same place. And if you want to break free, you have to take control of that program. The first step is awareness. Start noticing when your mind tries to pull you back into laziness. Pay attention to those moments when you reach for your phone instead of working on your goals. When you convince yourself that 5 more minutes of rest won't hurt. Those are the moments that define your future. If you let those small moments slide, they stack up into weeks, months, and years of inaction. But if you catch them, if you interrupt the pattern and choose action instead, you begin rewiring your brain. The second step is replacing the narrative. Instead of saying I'm lazy, start saying I am disciplined. Instead of I don't feel like it, say I take action whether I feel like it or not. At first, these statements might feel false, but the more you repeat them, the more they become your reality. Your brain believes what you tell it the most. If you feed it a new identity, it will start to align with that identity. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending you're something you're not. It's about recognizing that your thoughts are shaping your behavior every single day. If you want to stop being lazy, you have to first believe that you are capable of being the kind of person who takes action. You have to decide that you are no longer controlled by old habits. And the best part, You don't have to wait to feel ready. You don't have to wait for motivation to magically appear. You just have to decide right now that laziness is not your identity, that action is who you are, and that from this moment forward, you take control of your mind instead of letting it control you. Laziness thrives in comfort. It grows in the space where there are no immediate consequences, no pressing deadlines, and no real sense of necessity. That's why so many people procrastinate. They convince themselves that there's always more time. But the truth, the biggest enemy of success isn't failure, it's waiting, it's postponing, it's telling yourself, I'll do it later. And every time you say that, you reinforce the habit of inaction. Think about it. How many times have you set a goal, told yourself you'd start tomorrow, and then that tomorrow never came? Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and before you know it, years have passed, and you're still in the same place. That's the danger of delaying action. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to start. And the harder it becomes to start, the more likely you are to stay stuck. The only way to break this cycle is to create urgency. Not manufactured urgency, but real urgency. The kind that forces you to move, that makes standing still unbearable. Most people only feel urgency when they're backed into a corner, when there's a deadline, when they're running out of time, when they have no choice but to act. But by then, it's often too late. The key is to develop that urgency before you're forced into it. Imagine for a second that your biggest goal had a countdown timer on it. What if you knew with absolute certainty that you had only 6 months to achieve it, or you'd lose your chance forever? Would you still scroll on your phone for hours? Would you still say, I'll do it later? Of course not. You'd act now because the cost of waiting would be too high. That's the mindset you need to develop. Not one that relies on external deadlines, but one that treats every moment as critical. One way to create urgency is to attach real consequences to your inaction. Right now, the reason you don't feel urgency is because there's no immediate pain associated with being lazy. You tell yourself, it's fine, I'll do it eventually. But what if you made the cost of inaction greater than the cost of taking action? What if every time you procrastinated, you lost money or had to call a friend and admit you wasted another day? The more painful you make laziness, the less likely you are to fall into it. Another powerful tool is visualization. Close your eyes and imagine 2 versions of your future. One where you take action immediately, push the resistance, and commit to your goals right now. Picture the success, the progress, the momentum. Now picture the opposite. Imagine yourself 6 months from now, a year from now, still in the same spot, still making excuses, still frustrated with yourself. Which one feels better? Which one do you want to become? The truth is, time is not infinite. You don't have as much of it as you think. Every second you waste is a second you will never get back. And every day you delay is a day you could have been closer to your dreams. The people who achieve the most aren't the ones who are more talented or who have more resources. They're the ones who understand the power of now. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They create it. Urgency isn't just about deadlines or pressure. It's about adopting the mindset that waiting is not an option. It's about realizing that every second counts and that every action you take or don't take is shaping your future. If you don't create urgency, you will always find a reason to put things off. And if you keep putting things off, you'll wake up one day wondering where all your time went. Your body and mind are deeply connected. Most people don't realize this, but the way you move directly affects the way you think and feel. Laziness doesn't just exist in your head, it's reinforced by your physical state. When you sit slouched on a couch, shoulders rounded, breathing shallow, your body is literally signaling to your brain that you are in a low energy, inactive state. And guess what? Your brain responds accordingly, lowering your motivation, dulling your drive, and making it 10 times harder to get started on anything meaningful. But the moment you change your physiology, you stand up straight, take a deep breath, roll your shoulders back, and move with purpose, you send a completely different message to your brain. You tell it, wake up, let's go, we're taking action now. And the shift happens instantly. You don't wait to feel motivated. You create motivation by adjusting how you carry yourself. Think about this. Have you ever had one of those mornings where you just couldn't shake off the grogginess? Maybe you stayed in bed too long, scrolled through your phone, and moved sluggishly to the kitchen. The whole day felt slow, right? But compare that to a morning where you got up immediately, stretched your arms wide, took deep, energizing breaths, maybe even splashed cold water on your face or jumped around a little. That second version, that's what leveraging your physiology looks like. Most people think energy is something they either have or don't have, as if it's this random thing that appears and disappears throughout the day. But energy is created. It's a cycle. Movement generates energy, and energy fuels more movement. This is why athletes warm up before a game. It's why people who work out regularly tend to have more endurance throughout the day. It's why something as simple as standing up, shaking out your limbs, or taking a few power breaths can snap you out of a lazy, sluggish state within seconds. The problem is that most people don't use their body to their advantage. They wake up and immediately slump into passive postures, checking their phones, lying back down, dragging themselves through the day. They allow their physical state to dictate their emotions instead of the other way around. If you're feeling tired or lazy, the worst thing you can do is stay still. In fact, the more passive you are, the more exhausted you'll feel. The moment you start moving, though, whether it's stretching, jogging in place, or just standing up and rolling your shoulders, you shift your entire state. And this isn't just about big movements or workouts. Even your facial expressions and breathing patterns impact your energy. If you're frowning, your brain associates that with stress and fatigue. If you're taking shallow breaths, your body isn't getting enough oxygen to fuel activity. But if you start smiling, even if you don't feel like it, your brain begins to release chemicals that improve your mood. If you start taking deeper breaths, your body feels more alert, more engaged, more prepared to take action. Posture's another huge factor. Slumped shoulders, a hunchback, and slow, dragging movements are all signals of low energy. But when you stand up tall, expand your chest, and walk with intention, you automatically feel more confident, more in control. Your brain picks up on these cues and shifts your emotions to match. That's why simple changes, like standing up straight, lifting your chin, and speaking with strength, can make a massive difference in how you feel. Another way to leverage your physiology is through what I call pattern interruption. This means that the moment you catch yourself sinking into laziness, whether it's lying down for too long, scrolling endlessly, or feeling unmotivated, you immediately break the pattern with movement. Stand up, shake out your arms, do 10 jumping jacks, take a deep breath and clap your hands loudly. Move in a way that tells your brain, this is not a lazy moment. This is a moment of action. The more often you interrupt your patterns of laziness, the less hold they will have over you. Think about high energy people, Those individuals who always seem ready to go, who attack their goals with intensity, do you think they just naturally have more energy than you? No. They generate that energy by constantly using their body in a way that supports their mindset. They don't slouch. They don't drag their feet. They don't wait for motivation to hit them. They create it through movement, posture, and controlled breathing. Laziness isn't just mental, it's physical. If you don't feel like doing something, don't sit there overthinking it. Change your body first. The mind follows the body. Move with energy, breathe with intensity, and watch how quickly your state changes. One of the biggest reasons people fall into laziness is because they feel overwhelmed. They look at everything they need to do, projects, tasks, goals, responsibilities, and it feels like too much. The brain sees the mountain of work ahead and instantly shuts down. Instead of taking action, they procrastinate. Instead of moving forward, they freeze. And the longer they wait, the worse it gets. This is why simplifying and prioritizing is so critical. The more complicated something feels, the less likely you are to do it. The more things you have on your plate, the harder it is to know where to start. But when you break things down, when you strip away the unnecessary and focus only on what truly matters, everything changes. You eliminate mental clutter, reduce decision fatigue, and make it easy to just start. Think about how the brain works. It craves clarity. It craves simplicity. When something is clear and straightforward, it becomes easier to take action. But when it's messy, vague, or overloaded with too many options, your brain resists. This is why people spend hours organizing their to-do lists, but never actually doing anything. It's why people get excited about planning their goals, but lose motivation when it's time to execute. They drown themselves in unnecessary complexity instead of cutting through the noise and focusing on the most important step in front of them. The first key to overcoming this is breaking things down. Instead of looking at a task as one giant thing, split it into the smallest possible action you can take right now. Let's say you need to write a report. Instead of thinking, I need to write the whole thing, break it down. Step 1, open my laptop. Step 2, write one sentence. That's it. That's how you create momentum, because the hardest part isn't doing the work, it's starting the work. Once you start, the resistance drops. Once you start, your brain shifts from inaction to action mode. The second key is prioritization. Not all tasks are equal. Some move you forward in massive ways. Others are just distractions disguised as productivity. This is where most people go wrong. They waste time on the small stuff and avoid the things that actually matter. They answer emails before tackling their big projects. They scroll through social media before handling their top priorities, and then they wonder why they feel stuck. You need to identify the 1 or 2 things that will make the biggest impact. If you could only accomplish one thing today, what would it be? That's your priority. Everything else is secondary. Everything else can wait. Most of the time, people struggle with laziness not because they don't have enough time, but because they aren't spending their time on the right things. They stay busy instead of being effective. Another way to simplify and prioritize is through time blocking. Instead of having a vague, endless to-do list, schedule specific time slots for your most important tasks. If something is scheduled, it's real. It's not just an idea floating in your head, it's a commitment. And when you commit to something, you're far more likely to follow through. Another trap people fall into is perfectionism, which makes everything feel more complicated than it really is. Perfectionism is just another form of procrastination. People convince themselves they need to do everything perfectly, and because that feels overwhelming, they don't do anything at all. But here's the truth. Perfection isn't the goal. Progress is. The fastest way to get something done is to do it imperfectly first. Then you can refine and improve. Look at the most successful people in the world. They don't waste time on trivial things. They don't get caught up in details that don't matter. They focus on the essential, take immediate action, and move forward fast. They don't overthink. They simplify, they prioritize, they execute. When you clear out the distractions, break things into manageable steps, and focus on what truly matters, laziness has no room to exist, because now there's no reason to hesitate, there's no reason to wait. There's only one thing in front of you, the next step. And that next step is all you need to start building unstoppable momentum. Laziness is strongest when you're at rest. The hardest part of doing anything, whether it's working out, starting a project, or even getting out of bed, is the very first movement. The moment you're still, your mind starts making excuses. It tells you, I don't feel like it, I'll do it later, I'm not in the mood right now. But once you take that first step, once you start moving, everything changes. This is because of one of the most powerful laws of nature, the law of inertia. An object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion. This applies not just to physics, but to your daily life. If you're stagnant, you'll keep procrastinating. If you're in motion, you'll keep progressing. The key to overcoming laziness isn't waiting for motivation, it's creating momentum. Because once you build momentum, effort becomes effortless. The biggest mistake people make is believing they need to feel motivated before they take action. They wait for inspiration, they wait for the perfect mood, they wait for energy to strike. But high achievers don't wait for motivation, they manufacture it. They know that action creates motivation, not the other way around. Think about the last time you forced yourself to start something, maybe a workout, a project, or even cleaning your room. At first, it felt difficult. But after a few minutes, something shifted, your energy picked up, you got into a rhythm, you stopped thinking about whether you felt like doing it and just did it. That's momentum in action, and once you have it, it carries you forward effortlessly. So how do you create momentum when you're feeling lazy? Start ridiculously small. When your brain sees something as too big or too difficult, it resists. That's why the trick is to make the first step so small that it's impossible to say no to. Instead of saying, I have to write 10 pages, say, I'll write one sentence. Instead of saying, I have to go to the gym for an hour, say, I'll do one push-up. Instead of saying, I need to clean the whole house, say, I'll just pick up one item. This does two things. First, it removes the pressure that causes procrastination. Second, it tricks your brain into starting, and once you start, you naturally want to continue, because no one ever does just one push-up. No one ever writes just one sentence. Starting is the hardest part, and once you've started, the momentum pulls you forward. The next step is to eliminate friction. The more effort it takes to start something, the less likely you are to do it. This is why people struggle with working out. If they have to get dressed, drive to the gym, and set up their equipment, it feels like too much. But if their workout clothes are already laid out and their workout is already planned, it's easy to begin. If you want to read more, leave a book on your pillow so it's the first thing you see at night. If you want to eat healthier, remove junk food from your house so you don't have to resist temptation. If you want to work on a project, set up your workspace the night before so there's no resistance in the morning. The easier it is to start, the faster you'll build momentum. Another powerful way to build momentum is the never break the chain method. This means committing to a small daily action and tracking your progress in a way that's visible. Every day you take action, you put an X on a calendar. After a few days, you'll see a chain of X's forming. Your only goal is to not break the chain. This taps into something deep in human psychology. We hate breaking streaks. Once you've built up 5, 10, or 30 days of progress, you'll want to keep going. But here's the secret. You don't have to be perfect. Some days you won't feel like doing anything. That's okay. On those days, do the smallest possible action to keep the streak alive. If you don't want to work out, do one jumping jack. If you don't want to write, jot down one sentence. Because keeping the streak alive is more important than how much effort you put in. Momentum also comes from rewarding progress. Your brain loves rewards. The problem is that most people only celebrate big wins. Finishing a project, reaching a goal, hitting a major milestone. But if you only celebrate the end, you miss out on the power of rewarding the process. Each small win, getting started, making progress, staying consistent, should be acknowledged. This conditions your brain to enjoy taking action, which reinforces momentum even further. Finally, momentum is fueled by identity shift. If you see yourself as someone who struggles with laziness, you'll keep acting that way. But the moment you start identifying as a person of action, as someone who follows through, your behavior will naturally align with that identity. Every time you take action, even in the smallest way, you reinforce that identity. You tell yourself, this is who I am now. I take action. I build momentum. I don't wait. I move. The goal isn't to go from 0 to 100 overnight. The goal is to just start, to build small wins, to create tiny sparks of action that grow into unstoppable momentum. Because once you have momentum, nothing can stop you. Every decision you make, every action you take, and every habit you form is driven by two forces: pain and pleasure. These are the twin engines of human behavior. Everything you do is either to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. This is hardwired into your brain. It's not a choice, it's biology. The problem is, most people let these forces control them instead of using them as tools, and that's why they stay stuck in laziness. When you procrastinate, it's because your brain has linked more pain to taking action than to avoiding it. Maybe you've associated work with stress. Maybe you believe working out will be exhausting. Maybe you see waking up early as torture. Because your brain sees these things as painful, it naturally pushes you toward inaction. On the flip side, laziness becomes addictive because your brain links pleasure to it. Scrolling through social media feels good in the moment. Watching Netflix for hours, comfortable. Sleeping in feels nice. Your brain rewards you for these things with little hits of dopamine, reinforcing the behavior. And over time, this wiring becomes automatic. You don't even choose laziness anymore. It's just what your brain defaults to. But here's the secret. You can rewire this system. You can flip the script. Instead of pain pushing you away from action and pleasure keeping you lazy, you can train your brain to associate pain with laziness and pleasure with action. The moment you do this, taking action becomes automatic. Make laziness painful. Most people don't take action until the pain of not doing something becomes unbearable. Think about it. People don't start working out until they're out of shape and hate what they see in the mirror. They don't fix their finances until they're drowning in debt. They don't change their habits until they're forced to by a crisis. They wait until pain is overwhelming before they move. But by then, the damage is already done. The trick is to use pain before it forces you to act. You have to mentally and emotionally link massive pain to staying lazy. You have to make inaction feel so unbearable that your brain has to take action. How do you do this? Start by asking yourself powerful, gut-punching questions. If I stay lazy, where will I be in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? What dreams am I sacrificing because of my lack of action? What will my health, finances, and relationships look like if I don't change? Who am I letting down by staying in this lazy cycle? My family, my future self, my potential. What regrets will I have if I don't start moving now? Don't just answer these questions on a surface level. Feel the pain. Imagine yourself 5 years from now, stuck in the same place, wishing you had taken action today. Picture the opportunities you missed, the experiences you lost, the disappointment in yourself. The clearer and more painful this picture becomes, the more urgency you'll feel to break free from laziness. One powerful trick is public accountability. Tell someone your goals, someone who won't let you off the hook. If you don't follow through, you'll feel the pain of embarrassment, the pain of disappointing them. This external pressure forces your brain to move. Another way to create pain is through financial commitment. If you pay for something, whether it's a course, a coach, or even a gym membership, you'll feel pain if you don't use it. That pain will push you to take action, make action pleasurable. Just like you can link pain to laziness, you can link pleasure to taking action. You have to train your brain to see progress, productivity, and discipline as deeply rewarding experiences. You need to reprogram the way you think about effort. Most people see hard work as suffering, but look at the most successful people. They love taking action. They thrive on it. Why? Because they've trained themselves to associate action with pleasure. Here's how you can do the same. Celebrate every small win. Your brain is wired for rewards. When you accomplish something, even something tiny, acknowledge it. Fist bump yourself, say, check something off your list. These small victories release dopamine, reinforcing the habit of action. Create a reward system. Give yourself something to look forward to after completing a task. Maybe it's a break, a treat, or time doing something you enjoy. When your brain knows action leads to pleasure, it becomes easier to take that first step. Shift your identity. Instead of thinking, I have to do this, start thinking, this is who I am. If you see yourself as someone who takes action, who thrives on challenges, who moves forward no matter what, you'll start to act accordingly. Make work a game. The brain loves games. If you turn work into a challenge, setting timers, beating personal records, competing with yourself, you make action fun. Suddenly the things you used to dread become enjoyable. Visualize the reward before you start. Close your eyes and see the benefits of taking action. Imagine how amazing you'll feel after working out. Picture the pride of finishing a difficult task. The stronger the image, the more motivated you'll be. Surround yourself with high energy people. Energy is contagious. If you spend time around lazy people, you'll stay lazy. If you're around action takers, their momentum will pull you forward. Find people who push you to do more, be more, and achieve more. The ultimate hack: link immediate pain to laziness. an immediate pleasure to action. Your brain doesn't care about long-term consequences. It responds to immediate rewards and punishments. If laziness feels good in the moment, you'll keep choosing it. But if you attach instant pain to laziness and instant pleasure to action, you'll rewire your behavior. Try this experiment. The next time you feel yourself procrastinating, snap a rubber band on your wrist. This creates a small, immediate pain, reminding your brain that laziness is not a reward. Set a rule. If you don't complete a task, you have to do something uncomfortable, like 10 push-ups, or donating money to a cause you dislike. This makes laziness costly. The moment you start taking action, reward yourself immediately, even if it's just a mental great job or a deep breath of satisfaction. Your brain will start associating effort with pleasure. The bottom line, you have the power to control your motivation. You don't have to be a slave to laziness. You can reprogram your brain so that taking action becomes automatic. Once you master the power of pain and pleasure, laziness will no longer have a grip on you. Laziness isn't a personality trait, it's a habit, and just like any habit, it can be rewired, replaced, and eliminated. You don't need to wait for motivation. You don't need to feel ready. You need to take control of your mind, your body, and your actions right now. You've learned the 6 key strategies: master your mindset, create urgency, leverage your physiology, simplify and prioritize, build momentum, and use pain and pleasure. These aren't just ideas, they're tools. And tools only work if you use them. The truth is, success, discipline, and high performance are not reserved for the lucky few. They are built through consistent action. The people who achieve their goals, who create extraordinary lives, who break free from laziness, they aren't different from you. They've just learned how to control their thoughts, move their bodies, eliminate distractions, and push themselves forward even when they don't feel like it. Now it's your turn. Don't wait for the perfect moment. It will never come. Don't tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow never arrives. You have everything you need right now to shift from stagnation to momentum, from procrastination to action, from laziness to unstoppable energy. The question isn't whether you can overcome laziness. The question is, will you? Will you take what you've learned and apply it? Will you make the decision to take action, to push past resistance, to break free from the comfort that's been holding you back? Because in the end, there are only 2 choices: stay the same or rise to your potential. Wait for life to happen or take control of it. Give in to laziness or step into action. The choice is yours. Now go, move, take action.